Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the sources to give you the essential insights fast. And today we're taking a deep dive into a mind that, well, still fascinates us centuries later. You know the image, that enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa, or maybe the perfect proportions of the Vitruvian Man. We all recognize Leonardo da Vinci as this legendary artist, but our sources reveal he was just so much more. He was an anatomist, an architect, an engineer, a scientist, an inventor, truly a polymath living over 500 years ago.
Yeah, what's truly extraordinary is how his mind operated across such a vast spectrum of disciplines. Long before, interdisciplinary thinking became a buzzword, this deep dive isn't just about revisiting his historical achievements. It's really about a thought experiment. What if Leonardo da Vinci were alive and working today? How would his singular genius manifest in our modern world?
That's exactly our mission today. We're going to explore where his boundless passions might lead him in today's fields, what kind of professional he'd be, how his revolutionary methods would translate with cutting-edge tools, the inevitable challenges he'd face, and ultimately where he would truly shine. So get ready to see the Renaissance man through a 21st century lens, and maybe even glimpse a bit of his enduring human side. Okay, let's begin by looking at his original passions. The sources describe him as having an unquenchable curiosity and a feverishly inventive imagination. It's incredible, the sheer breadth of his interests. So when we consider his historical pursuits, where do you see those mapping today in our modern landscape?
Well, it's pretty clear that many of his groundbreaking ideas from centuries ago directly foreshadowed modern industries and scientific fields.
Yeah.
Take his enduring fascination with flight and motion, for example. He created many designs for human-powered flying machines, including an aerial screw, which, today we recognize as something similar to a helicopter.
Right, that helical screw thing.
Exactly. And he even realized that friction would play a major role and designed what might be one of the first modern ball bearings just to improve rotation. And here's a remarkable detail. Back in 2000, a man named Adrian Nicholas actually proved Leonardo's parachute design worked.
No kidding.
Yeah, using only 15th century materials. And he found it gave a smoother descent than many modern parachutes.
That's genuinely astounding, his designs from centuries ago proving functional today. Does that speak more to his, sheer foresight, or perhaps to the timeless nature of fundamental engineering principles, even as the tech wasn't there yet?
I think it's a beautiful combination of both, really. His relentless pursuit of understanding how things worked, his meticulous observation, and that iterative design process, even if just on paper. That would make him a natural for the complex, long-term problem-solving in modern aerospace. Think of the visionary, sometimes experimental nature of companies like SpaceX, or the deep scientific inquiry at NASA and the ESA. His mind would thrive there, driven by that same fascination with flight and the unknown, always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. He'd be categorized squarely in aerospace engineering today.
Okay. And his work with water, which he seemed equally obsessed with, that wasn't just about art either, was it?
Not at all. He was a hydrodynamicist dedicated to understanding the forces and flows of fluids. The sources tell us he designed movable barricades to protect Venice from naval attack, and even plotted to divert the River Arno in Florence, applying his scientific skills and knowledge on water movement, geology, and engineering for a truly massive project.
Wow.
These interests would align perfectly with renewable energy today, specifically hydroelectric and tidal power, and also major civil engineering endeavors, often listed under H2O and civil engineering. His mind just saw the power of natural forces and sought to harness them.
He truly saw the world as this complex system, didn't he? From grand engineering projects right down to the smallest details of the human body.
Precisely. As an anatomist, he drew and cataloged the entire human body, apparently dissected over 30 bodies, and made over 240 detailed drawings in his quest for understanding.
Just incredible dedication.
It really is. He pioneered a method of mapping the internal structure of the brain by injecting hot wax into it, and he expertly modeled and theorized how the human heart worked, even creating a working glass model. Some of his predictions on blood flow were only confirmed in 2014, centuries later.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the sources even state that if his work had been published, it would have totally changed medical history. And what's fascinating is that his anatomical studies apparently originally began to serve his art as a way of making his paintings more lifelike and real.
So his artistic drive actually led him to scientific breakthroughs that could have revolutionized medicine. What a powerful feedback loop. How does that incredibly detailed investigative approach to the human form translate into today's world?
It translates directly to fields like biomedical engineering, the development of prosthetics, and advanced robotic surgery. His meticulousness, his drive to understand every joint and muscle, aligns perfectly with the precision needed in creating, say, artificial limbs or designing a robotic arm for surgery. We see titles like Biomedical Engineering and articles about human anatomy inspires robotic hand design that just mirror his precise, detailed approach.
But his genius wasn't without its moral complexities, was it? The sources actually highlight a pretty striking contrast in Leonardo's character that we need to unpack.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? How do we reconcile the incredibly compassionate and thoughtful Leonardo, the one who avoided meat and freed caged birds because he recognized the sentience of animals? How do we reconcile that guy with the engineer who designed countless war machines?
Right.
As an engineer, he designed light and portable bridges, a special cannon that fires a hailstorm of stones, secret passageways, and even an armored vehicle described as a prototype for modern tanks.
Tank prototype, yeah.
He even designed instruments of war for sea battles. These clearly connect to modern defense technology, robotics, AI-controlled systems. However, this internal conflict suggests he might clash, perhaps strongly, with modern ethics on weapon development. Maybe his compassion would lead him to shift his focus for robotics towards, say, rescue or exploration or space, rather than solely destructive applications.
That's a profound thought. He might actively choose to apply his brilliance to protecting life rather than ending it, given his empathy. And finally, we absolutely can't forget the artistry. How does that intertwine with his engineering in a modern context?
Well, he was an architect who designed grand cities and buildings that were revolutionary for his time, a theater producer who created immersive sets and props, and even designed an entire city for King Francis I.
An entire city.
Yeah. His trompe-l'oeil decoration in the Sala dell'As transformed a hall into a mulberry grove. He masterfully blended mechanics plus anatomy, think Vitruvian Man, and optics plus painting, like concentrating solar power. This broad creativity and technical skill points directly to industrial design, architecture, and the cutting-edge fields of CGI and virtual reality VR design. Areas like art, building and architecture, and entertainment in modern engineering schools. For Leonardo, it was always this complete fusion of aesthetics and function.
With such a vast array of interests and talents, it feels like Leonardo would be impossible to pigeonhole into a single job title today. So what does this all mean for his modern career path? Would he still even call himself an engineer?
The sources strongly suggest no single title would work. Not really. He was described as a polymath, perhaps the most intelligent person who ever lived, for whom no one field would satisfy him, today or at any time. He'd likely be called more of an interdisciplinary innovator, or maybe a research engineer, a universal genius par excellence. He embodied what we might call an E-shaped person today. Someone who doesn't restrict themselves to one narrow field, but actively seeks synergies across them.
Okay, an E-shaped person.
Yeah, and his inherent traits, that insatiable curiosity, controlled experimentations, intrinsically fueled ambition, and an open mind and wide comfort zone, those are cited as hallmarks of successful engineers even today. We would probably see him moving fluidly between roles, maybe from aerospace to biotech, then maybe over to renewable energy, just refusing to be pinned down by a single label or department. He was truly a free-range thinker.
It makes perfect sense that he would defy categorization even today. Now, if we were to put modern tools into Leonardo's hands, how would his famous methods of meticulous observation, detailed documentation, and hands-on experimentation adapt?
His entire approach was fundamentally scientific, right? Describing and depicting phenomena in the utmost detail. His 13,000 pages of notes and drawings filled with these intricate designs, including his perfected exploded view technique for internal components.
Those amazing drawings, yeah.
They'd find their modern equivalent in advanced CAD software and AI design platforms. He already created the first form of the modern technical drawing, so these tools would be a natural, powerful extension for him. Imagine him visualizing, simulating, sharing his designs with unprecedented speed.
So his famous notebooks become digital files, instantly shareable and modifiable.
Okay.
What about his anatomical studies, the dissections?
Well, his laborious process of dissecting many human corpses and mapping structures like the brain with wax, that would be utterly transformed by MRI and 3D imaging. It would allow non-invasive, high-resolution internal visualization. Imagine the speed and precision he could achieve without ever picking up a scalpel.
Wow.
Similarly, his designs for an aerial screw would move from paper and theoretical models to rapid prototyping and testing in modern drone and flight simulation labs. The iteration cycles would be incredibly fast.
Right.
And his conceptual fighting vehicle, the tank prototype, developed in robotics labs, But again, given his compassionate nature, this might evolve into robotics for rescue missions, exploration, space, shifting away from purely destructive applications.
While his genius is undeniable, a man from the Renaissance dropped into the 21st century wouldn't have all easy, surely.
Yeah.
What modern systems might clash with his unique way of working?
This is where things get interesting. Would his genius be stifled by today's realities? I think so in some ways. The sources suggest he'd struggle immensely with the need for financial support, which is difficult to find these days.
Ah, the funding problem.
Exactly. Imagine Leonardo, who once answered directly to princes and dukes, now having to navigate a university's animal care and use committee for his dissections. Or filling out triplicate forms for a grant application reviewed by peers? That would be humiliating for someone who essentially had no peers in his time.
Right.
And for astronomy, he'd need degrees to obtain and the credentialing necessary to access expensive equipment like a modern telescope. This contrasts so sharply with his historical patronage by figures like the Medici or King Francis I, who simply admired his talent and provided resources.
So all the hoops and hurdles we deal with would be quite a shock to him. He probably wondered why everyone isn't just funding his next brilliant idea. What about the rise of artificial intelligence? Would he see it as a threat or an ultimate collaborator?
Well, it's not explicitly mentioned, but his secretive mirror script for personal notes, only writing in normal script for others to read, that suggests a cautious approach to sharing. However, his documented great collaborator trait and his open mind might lead him to embrace AI as a powerful tool for discovery rather than a rival. His ability to easily solve problems could be enhanced by AI. I suspect he'd see it as a partner in his intellectual pursuit rather than a competitor. He'd likely be less intimidated and more intensely curious about its potential.
That makes perfect sense for someone constantly seeking to expand his capabilities. But what about the modern emphasis on specialization, that stay-in-your-lane mentality?
Oh, his polymathic nature would certainly chafe against a world where specialists are expected to stay in their lane. As someone who could apply their brilliance to such a wide array of subjects, he would likely be incredibly impatient with those who would stand in their way.
Yeah, I can see that.
The sources also highlight his tendency to get distracted easily and be chronically inconclusive, abandoning projects once the intellectual thrill was gone, never publishing many discoveries.
Right, the unfinished masterpieces.
Exactly. This would clash directly with modern demands for, as the sources put it, getting shit done and commercialization. His groundbreaking ideas might be rejected on the basis of cost or because a group of his non-peers would consider his ideas unworkable. He really valued the journey of discovery over the final product or financial gain, and that's a tough sell in today's market.
Despite these potential roadblocks, these clashes, where do you think Leonardo's extraordinary mind would truly find its perfect fit in the modern world? Where would he be most at home?
Okay, speculating a bit, but given his traits and interests, I think there are a few environments where he'd not just survive, but absolutely thrive. He'd likely be at NASA or ESA, designing for Mars colonization, leveraging his astronomy studies and that deep fascination with flight. Imagine his multi-page notebooks detailing every single component of a Martian habitat, from the airlocks to the waste recycling systems.
I can absolutely see him drawing up plans for an entire Martian city, maybe complete with Trump-low domes. Where else do you think his disruptive spirit would land him?
Companies like Tesla or SpaceX, they're known for disruptive technology with flair, which would align perfectly with his inventor spirit and ambition to push technological boundaries. The sources note he was actually eager to play down his brilliant talent for art, in favor of his true passion, to discover, invent, and design new ideas. His curiosity would be fed constantly in those environments, with the resources to match, hopefully.
And given his deep dive into human anatomy and that meticulous understanding of mechanics.
His deep blend of anatomy, physiology, and mechanics would make him invaluable in medical robotics. Developing precision tools for robotic surgery or advanced prosthetics, building on his wax injection brain mapping or those detailed heart models, he'd revolutionize the operating room, making it more efficient, less invasive.
He wouldn't abandon his artistic flair, though, would he? That seems like such a core part of who he was.
Never. I agree. He'd be a pioneer in the art-tech crossover. Think companies like Pixar, or maybe leading architecture and CGI VR design studios. His unique ability to make art lifelike through scientific understanding would drive innovation in visual storytelling and immersive experiences. He would be creating entirely new forms of art and entertainment, pushing the boundaries of what's visually possible.
What an incredible journey, just imagining Leonardo da Vinci navigating our present day. From aerospace to medical robotics, his passions would have found new homes. But his unique approach would also encounter these very modern challenges like bureaucracy, funding pressures, the demand for specialization.
Absolutely. Ultimately, what emerges is this timeless testament to the power of curiosity, observation, and interdisciplinary thinking. The sources tell us that our world has produced far smarter people, but rarely do you come across someone so universally talented. He was unique in that breadth.
This leaves us with a truly provocative thought for you, the listener. The sources suggest we imagine a world where everyone was more curious and observant, where everyone tried to ask more questions and seek more answers, a world more like Leonardo da Vinci. But then there's his human side, his chronically inconclusive nature, his love for the intellectual pursuit over getting shit done or seeking money. How much do we sacrifice by always demanding immediate results and strict specialization? What if you allowed yourself the freedom to pursue knowledge for its own sake, to cross those disciplinary boundaries, even if it means some projects remain beautifully, endlessly unfinished, like so many of Leonardo's masterpieces?